says Beyonce to remove offensive Renaissance lyric after ableist backlash.
Sorry, I just hit my fist on the table.
Yeah, okay.
Pop culture crisis is a contact sport.
It is. So Beyonce, if you guys remember, about what was it? A couple months ago, 2 months ago.
It was 6 weeks ago exactly. I know this because the Australian disability activist Hannah Davini.
Yeah.
Posted the original tweet that got Lizzo in trouble for having the word spaz in her lyrics of girls.
And remember that all these celebrities bend over backwards to like accommodate and change and grow. Change and grow.
Yeah, so the original tweet went viral, and that was how this whole controversy started. It blew up and was covered in all of these mainstream publications.
And it's that
then Lizzo responded by saying she would re-record it as something else.
And the controversy is specifically cerebral palsy groups are
the
saying
activist herself has cerebral palsy,
and they're saying that it's a derogatory word for someone with cerebral palsy.
Yes.
The word. Can I say it?
Yeah.
Spaz.
Yeah.
Brace for you too.
You also said that it was regional specific, right?
Yeah,
I had never heard that.
When I was looking at the lyric page for Heated, which is the Beyonce song in question, I went to like the explanation under the line that has spaz in it, and it was explaining her decision to re-record it and remove it. And it was because her and Lizzo, being from the US, would have thought the word spaz just means like freak out or something. But in the UK, it's considered a much more offensive term.
See, this is the problem with globalism.
Yes.
Yeah. You can't just perform for the audience's sensibilities closest to you that you're familiar with. You have to perform and base all of your actions on the sensibilities of literally everyone, when you would have no way of knowing, unless you lived there, what their sensibilities are.
That's why no one can be globally marketable.
Exactly. It's like saying the British
except
people,
maybe K-pop groups.
British people love "See You Next Tuesday," do they not? And they we don't. A lot of women here consider that
I don't know
rightly
if that's
offensive.
A slur. Is that a slur?
I'm just trying to think of examples of like something that would be more palatable there. Like if you watch shows in Britain, they use that word fairly loosely, and if you heard that here, that would be considered a big deal.
Well, I'm personally really sad that we'll be losing this great lyric. If anyone can find it or read it, I don't feel like reading it on air. But
Mary has. I thought you said you wanted to read it. Or was that Dane that yesterday?
I don't want to read it because I don't even like Lizzo song.
I will highlight it right
place.
here. But I will highlight it.
It's used in the exact same way that Lizzo used it in Girls. It's just like using it as a verb to say like, freak out, go crazy, something like that.
I just think as a culture, what are we going to do without these really, deep and beautiful phrases that really help us reflect on our humanity, If we can't use this term, how are we going to really understand what she's experiencing? This is obviously sarcasm for anyone in the chat.
Davini's article was originally in an Australian publication, and then The Guardian republished it with a different headline.
I have that
more I guess it catches more eyes. When Beyonce dropped the same ableist slur as Lizzo on her new album, my heart sank.
I love the language.
She said that tweet of mine, which explained how the slur was connected to my disability, cerebral palsy, took me less than 5 minutes to write, and it went viral, landing on the front page of global news outlets, including the BBC, New York Times, and the Washington Post.
I am very important.
Lizzo herself even took notice, changing the lyric and giving us all a master class in how to be a true and effective ally.
What they mean by that is bend the knee quickly, bend the knee very, very quickly, and prostrate yourself before the mob and say, please, 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 please forgive me, even though no harm or harmful intent was meant in the first place.
Do you think that there are other people who have like muscular disorders or like convulsive movement issues who are like, no, cerebral palsy, like that's our term. You can't pick our thing.
It's kind of like
or I mean this happened. Sorry, like with the Redskins when they resolved that controversy, you would get some Native Americans who are like, no, we don't mind. It doesn't bother us. Same thing with any of like the Chiefs or any of the other teams. I mean, in some ways, I wonder if we're going to see a backlash of people being like, this is not a slur, and
Well, it's
please
like,
stop making us victims.
If one person with cerebral palsy is offended by this word, then they are considered the representation for all of that group.
There was a coach, is like somebody for the Dallas Cowboys recently used an offensive term for little person. And then Hornswoggle, who used to work for the WWE.
Also, that name, Hornswoggle.
It's the greatest name ever.
Another level.
Came out and said, like, look, I don't care if you use that term. Like, you do not. It's the same thing with Peter Dinklage. You don't get to speak for all of one group. But like Mary said, if one is offended, then it's the same as all being offended in the eyes of social media and the public.
It was more interesting too that she included in her article an acknowledgement of Beyonce's race, as if that's relevant. Because you're leveraging each other's points
their
in
identity
this system.
Yeah, I was going to say, is the other person white?
Yeah.
Australian, I assume. They're not Aboriginal.
She is. So she said, Beyonce's commitment to storytelling, musically and visually, is unparalleled, as is her power to have the world paying attention to the narratives, struggles, and nuanced lived experience of being a black woman, a world I can only ever understand as an ally and have no desire to overshadow.
They're just
But that
trembling.
doesn't excuse her use of ableist language that gets used and ignored all too often.
They're just all so terrified of that's what I love about it. They're all terrified of each
standoff.
other. Yeah, it's literally, I can't even say that term anymore.
What term?
A Spider-Man standoff.
Yes, yeah,
Definitely
it's
not a
Spider-Man.
Mexico.
Yeah, I can't
related standoff.
But like, yeah, so they're all terrified of each other.
A Mexican standoff.
Because
a
of their
Mexicali standoff.
because of their identity characteristics. It's like a weird progressive stack standoff in which everybody leverages their own identity traits to make them which one is the biggest victim today, and they're all pointing guns at each other.
And they'll ultimately end up interfighting. I mean, as much as this comment is trying to be like, I have acknowledged, but like, she is saying that her experience, her concerns about ableist comments or, in some ways being offended by this ultimately outweigh anything she's doing. Like, what if Beyonce or Lizzo had responded with being like, well, in the American black community, spaz is an important term. Like, we use it regularly. So
then what do you do?
Like, then what do you do? At what point do you guys like realize who is the heaviest weight here? It becomes easier to back down and to rewrite it as soon as you're challenged.
But now, like, I think this activist, because of what happened with Lizzo, that was like a success for her. Now she thinks that she can control the headlines, and she kind of is. Like, she's making news out of her personal complaints and making it seem like there's an uproar where it's entirely fabricated.
As a straight white male, I'm wondering when I'm finally going to get in on this whole...
Never.
The answer is never.
If I'm because I'm deaf in one ear, does that mean I can say something if somebody makes... I can be half offended if somebody makes a comment about the deaf community?
If someone jokingly says, I can't hear you, you can say, that's ableist.
Yes. I could do that.
But the thing is, you are also a white male, and so on that scale, I don't think that you are enough. You know what I'm saying?
People, as somebody who is cripplingly ADHD, hear like people talk about it in the terms of ableism online, and even that bothers me because I was not raised to think about those traits as something to worry about what other people's opinions or words are of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I also think that my personal preference for myself, and probably if I had kids or people I care about, I wouldn't want anyone to be boiled down to one identity marker, especially when it's something that you don't have control over. Yeah. So I understand where this activist who has cerebral palsy, obviously it's a huge part of her life experience, and in some ways she has seen a lot of she's realized she has a fair amount of influence, and being proactive in that might give her a sense of purpose and might be fulfilling. On the other hand, like, is this the thing that you feel sets you apart from everyone else? Like, how much of this disease are you using, or like, does it ultimately make you feel important or special? Like, there are probably a million reasons this girl has talents and benefits. Like, I'm not trying to trash her, but like, I don't think that becoming what you believe people discriminate you against, like using that as your number one label, is going to help you in the long term at all. I think it's going to eat away at your psyche.
She's even saying that in this article, that paying attention to this and writing about all of this and calling attention to it is draining her of all of her energy, saying, it's not very often that I don't know what to say, rendered speechless by ignorance, sadness, and a simmering anger born of bone-deep exhaustion, but that's how I feel right now.
That is, to me, that is a trait that you cannot, you have to change. There's a fundamental set to her nature that puts those traits forward, right? Mm-hmm. So she always feels, I have a feeling that those feelings are very consistent with her, even when articles like this aren't coming out.
That she's just a neurotic person?
Yeah. I mean, nothing against her. I'm just saying that a lot of the people that I've met that are like that, it's more than just one aspect of their personality. It reaches much, much deeper than that. It's like when people talk about, some people love drama and infighting, like that they feed off of it, they enjoy it. To me, I find it extremely draining and a waste of time. But everyone's different, right? And
I think a lot of these like internet literate so-called activists actually are just busybodies, and they do quite enjoy the power that they get to leverage against people and the control that they get. But then that made this interaction between The Dream and Diane Warren even more interesting.
Who is The Dream? I'm sorry.
He's one of the producers credited on that song and on most of the songs on Beyonce's new album.
This is fascinating.
So Diane Warren tweeted something cryptically saying, how can there be 24 writers on a song? She is a songwriter, by the way. Like, that is her profession. She's more known for the songs she's written for other people than her own. And then she replied to it with, "This isn't meant as shade. I'm just curious." And then this producer, The Dream, saw this tweet and responded, basically assuming malicious intent on her part.
Emotivism.
Yes. He said, "You mean, how does our Black culture have so many writers? Well, it started because we couldn't afford certain things starting out. So we started sampling, and it became an art form, a major part of the Black culture, hip-hop, in America. Had that era not happened, who knows? You good?"
Oh, this is such, I feel like this is such a strange overreaction.
And then he replied to that with, "By the way, I know it's not a one-on-one writing contest you're looking for from no one over here. You don't want that smoke." And it's like saying you don't want that smoke to an elderly woman is just like insane to me.
She's like reading it. She's like, what?
And you know I love you, but come on, stop acting like your records haven't been sampled. And then he had like a rocket ship emoji. I don't know what that's about, but this is literally just like cyberbullying an elderly person who like did not sign up for.
And her response here where she's like, "I didn't mean it."
She immediately recoiled. It was like, "What do you mean?
There's no need to be mean about it."
She said, "I didn't mean that as an attack or as disrespect. I didn't know this. Thank you for making me aware of it. No need to be mean about it."
And then she said no need to be mean about it.
Yeah, and then she said it's probably samples that add up to the amount of writers. And then she tweeted, "I meant no disrespect to Beyonce, who I've worked with and admire. I'm sorry for the misunderstanding."
Why would you even want to engage on Twitter when you know that everyone's going to use them? Like I said, emotivism. They're going to attribute the absolute positive worst intent that you could ever possibly have to the most benign of things that you say, because it makes them feel good about pushing back on something that wasn't there to begin with.
Yeah, what I was thinking after reading about all of this is, like, why is Beyonce the only one held accountable for this lyric when there are actually
24 writers on like a typical song?
I looked at the credits for writing on Heated, and there are like 10 people other than herself credited for writing, and like a lot of them overlap, but like 5 other people credited for the production of it. Drake is one of the co-writers on it, and none of them are getting the same backlash. It's only her because she's the face of it, but I doubt she had much to do with the writing of the song anyway.
But she didn't say no to it, and she's the name, like, so it's going to be easier to attack her, right?
Yeah.
If I say,
it seems like even her music group is the one responding to the backlash.
I couldn't even tell you the name of her music group, though. Like, it's much easier in terms of a headline for it to be linked to Beyonce. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
People are going to click on that. If I say The Dream, you might click on it, but way more people recognize Beyonce. I also think that, like, I understand that, like, I might not be an expert on how sampling is credited on albums, but I think questioning why songs are huge projects with lots and lots of people, but the lyrics are not that complicated.
They're repetitive and limited in meaning. I think the more people are involved in it, and we were just comparing this to writers' rooms for films and TV shows, where when you involve too many people, it starts to lose the plot.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone has to have a purpose on it. And it's definitely not my industry or my area of expertise. I'm happy to be corrected on this. But, like, I think it was Joe Rogan who, or maybe it was someone else, some commentator was saying, do you remember Miley Cyrus had a song called Malibu? It's just like a pop song. You hear it when you're, like, in an H&M. It's a couple years ago at this point. But one of the main lyrics is, like, something about, like, next to you in Malibu. And then she just kind of oohs a lot. They were, like, I think upwards of 5 people credited. Like, there are actually she repeats 2 sentences over and over again and, like, oohs. It's kind of got a pretty sound. I understand why it's pop music, but, like, why did it take 5 people to come up with this? In some ways, like, are you guys operating a money laundering operation? Like, what
how many people were in the room for that, and what specific involvement did they have? Is that recorded? Like, what each person contributed to the song?
Yeah.
It reminds me of, speaking of Miley Cyrus.
The Dream's going to tweet at me now.
She did speaking of Dream, Miley Cyrus did a song called Dream, D-R-E-A-M. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Ghostface Killah, but he had a song called Cream. Cash rules everything around me.
Oh, it's like she did it as
Drugs
an acronym?
Rule. She did Drugs Rule Everything Around Me. And it said featuring Ghostface Killah. And I'm like, wow. That doesn't, and then in the end, it's just one of his verses from Cream that they just bought to use in the song.
Did she, like, cover it? Is that what they did? Or they just fully sampled his
They just
verse?
used the lyrics at the end as if it was part of that song, but it was from a different song. It was from the original. So I was like, well, I was just bait and hooked into listening to that.
Now, I haven't listened to Heated, but I didn't see any songs mentioned for, like, that were sampled on Heated.
So are there like pressed albums for this that are going to be collector's items because they're going to have the lyrics on there?
That is
Let's make some money.
I see what you mean. The physical media thing is encroaching upon music as well.
Buy your physical
They're
copies.
retroactively editing music and TV.
Yeah.
I mean, we could look it up if they had released. I mean, if they're on sale anywhere. I assume essentially their record company would be recalling them.
I just posted a meme in my on Instagram the other day. It's like a Choco Taco in a freezer. It says 1,200 or best offer. No low balls.
We can't have Choco Taco.
That was my first
We can't
comment.
have Stranger Things. We can't have Beyonce.
We're losing
It's all
dude.
getting recalled.
For this, what chooses? Like, I want to know where they draw the line. Like, because rappers say the most vile, disgusting words to describe women, and that will never change.
And not just women, but just about anything.
Anything. So why is it because she's mainstream pop? Is it because she's Beyonce?
She's more than mainstream pop. Like, she's almost so recognizable. She's like, anything she releases is a genre in and of itself. Like,
But keep going. I was just saying, I think technically she has made less money and sold fewer albums than Rihanna. Like, she's built herself into a brand.
Yeah.
She is incredibly successful. That's not to say she isn't, but, you know, I think in some ways she has had such a cultural, like, similarly to maybe like Madonna or Oprah, like, there are certain people who start to, even if their careers aren't as fantastically successful
their
in terms of the
name
numbers,
just
their
begins
names
to
mean
mean
something.
something.
Yeah.
Is this karma for faking that national anthem performance all those years aago?
Beyonce did that?
Yeah.
Is that, like, proven?
They did the thing where they said, like, she pulls her earpiece out and then it turns out that she was lip syncing it anyways.
Do you remember Fergie's national anthem? I feel like at least it sucked, but at least it was authentic.
Yes.
You know?
Beyonce also married Jay-Z. Like, there's a really fun, like, one of the worst memes that I've ever seen, like, where it completely misses the point. It's like Jay-Z and Beyonce, like, on the beach, and Jay-Z's got no shirt on. He's, like, kind of overweight. And it says, like, Beyonce, like, this guy married Beyonce, shoot your shot, kings. I'm like, he's like a billionaire. That's not the same thing.
Yeah, she also makes a lot of songs, like, talking about the fact that he's cheated on her.
Yeah,
and
he's, I mean, I'm not against this, but they were like a decade apart in age. They started dating when she was like 19.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm curious about is if now her production team, Renaissance, from what I understand, is like part of a 3-part release. Like she hasn't released music in 6 years, and then it's going to be like one of, I don't know, a trilogy of albums. Does this mean they are now going back and re-listening to all the other songs being like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen?
Do you think this might be a PR stunt as well, given the fact that it's so recent compared to the Lizzo thing? Like, it's the exact same word. It's almost like they added that to the lyrics after the Lizzo incident.
I think that
would be funny.
They
and ghoulish. And
I know, but like they did this with the Me Too probe, and then this is the only other reason that I've heard about Beyonce's new album.
She also had the song, like she apparently sampled the Khalees song that got pushed back on by Khalees. She's like, you stole my music.
What?
Yes, we didn't cover it on here because it just didn't seem important enough. But then the one, so the Khalees thing.
They're creating controversy about this album that no one cares about. I feel like the hype for Beyonce is at like Coachella and nowhere else.
Yeah, I think she's well past the climax of her career, right? She's not as popular. There are way more. I mean, Doja Cat could outsell her, I bet. There are people like, it's not that she doesn't. It's not that she doesn't have a loyal fan base, but like, she is sort of the early 2000s era. People will still go see her, but I don't think that she is the trend-setting current music icon that she once was.
Those millennials aren't buying houses. They'll pay really for those really expensive tickets. They got this.
Well, the other part is that before this album, I guess this album leaked online.
That was
like,
what we
her
thought that was.
Extremely loyal fans were like, we're not going to listen to it. And she was like, you guys, thanks. That's great.
That's really embarrassing.
Isn't that weird?
Like, that's really...
No, that was the one that I was like, oh, that's a stunt. They pre-released it on time to also, be like, reminding you that you're loyal to me.
Is she like cucking Jay-Z by not releasing only on Tidal?
Isn't
yes,
Tidal
she
going?
is. I don't know if Tidal's still around. I
thought Tidal went under.
Okay, I just want to read the one more response from Icon. This is the one that where he says, "All G, but don't do that. It's young writers, producers, and artists that need to know whatever way they make it and however they contribute is worth it. We all aren't as fortunate at first. Every idea is art. It's more fun together, in my opinion. I could be wrong."
You are wrong. I hate that she's genuinely sorry. She says sorry, and then he's like, all good, but don't do that. It's like, you already scolded her. Yeah. She's an old, out-of-touch woman.
Yeah.
And also, she's perfectly, like, as a songwriter, a professional songwriter for decades, would be perfectly within her wheelhouse to comment on how many people should be involved in writing a song.
Well, and also how the industry has changed. Yeah. That it is now about sampling as opposed to original work.
It's not racial. Like, it was never racial, and he made it that way to, like, bludgeon
But it's because he's looking for it.
Yeah.
He is looking for this to be an attack on culture or identity when it's really not. I mean, anything, it's maybe an attack on professional standards, right? Yeah. Like, did you need to pay that many people to be there? But, like, he made a controversy out of nothing.
He's involved in he's like credited in Heated, and now he's mad that they're getting attacked for using that slur, and now he's going to use his leverage to hit back at whoever.
This never ends. This goes on forever. Until we get rid of social media, this goes on forever. First of all, one of the things that I really do believe is that the reason these conversations even happen now is because people can form more coherent phrases, sentences, and arguments online than they could if they were trying to do this in person.
I'm convincing you to be against the printing press.
I'm not saying that they shouldn't be able to.
My favorite political position of Mary.
It's not that. It's not that. It's that being able to write it is a lot different than being able to phrase it in person, where the dynamics of the conversation are different anyways. Right? So this would never happen in fact, I would pay to see this happen at like an art gallery. Like they're at like a gallery opening and he's just lecturing this old songwriter about this. That would make for a hilarious video, but it would never happen.
I think we're at a cultural shifting point where that actually would happen.
I don't think he would be able to make the same argument.
Wasn't there a guy who like, I can't remember what this was, and I hate to misquote it, but there was a guy, I think maybe in Times Square, who was like, if you renounce white privilege, come kneel in front of me. And like people did weird stuff. Yeah, I'll have to find this video.
Yeah, but that's not making a coherent argument. That's just making a demand.
But that's what this guy's not making a coherent argument. He's just saying like, don't attack what we're doing. We did what we wanted, which you could have just said because we wanted 24 people to be working on this.
She never commented on sampling either.
Yeah.
Like he made this into something. It's not because he was looking for the fight.
Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.